Crank her up. Let's go.
Yes, we are on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Jimmy Doane Show, which means it's live, 4 o'clock New York time.
Yep.
4 o'clock, Sunday or Wednesday, we do this show live twice a week. No editors, no filter, no net, except for corporate.
Right.
But not too much interference there. Anyway, today's the 27th of May, 2020. I will post a timestamp copy of the show up on YouTube and Twitter later on. If you search for Jimmy Doane around the web, you can find us also in audio format. Doane is spelled D-O-A-N-E. So, welcome to the show. You can comment. I'll try to check the stream here at some point and get us into there. So, we're back to one of our normal set, one of our original sets here. Just, because I couldn't record any good.
Well, we might not have too many listeners today.
Oh yeah, why is that?
In 30 minutes, there's going to be the blast.
Oh yeah. Well, we may not be here.
That's right. Well, it's only about 150 miles from here, maybe, or two.
Oh yeah. Well,
it's down at the Cape,
Mm-hmm.
and what they did is down there at the Cape. This is the SpaceX with 2 astronauts.
Yeah.
First time private. From United States people going to put 2 astronauts up to the space station.
Isn't this the first time we've done a launch since the space shuttle?
Yes, absolutely. That's right.
Dun, dun.
Now, what's happened is, of course, we've relied on the Ruskies to do all the stuff they've done, and they've sent a lot of stuff.
That is because Trump is in bed with Putin.
That's right. That's right. So
It was the whole plan. He's going to take over Space Force from the inside.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So anyway, it turns out that this is Elon Musk.
Yes.
His thing.
Elon. Go Elon.
Yes, go Elon. So this we're going to find out here. And when this show's over, we'll have to go see if it's blowed up. And no, you got to figure that they're pretty well tested, and
yeah, probably not going to blow up.
They said that it's I think it's like $500 or $600 million for the launch.
Oh.
But it's still like a tenth of what our.
I was going to say that's a fraction of
It's a fraction. No, that's the whole idea. That's one of the reasons why.
Are you saying private competition brought the price down?
Hard to believe.
And isn't that deflation? Isn't that a bad thing?
It's really bad.
It's horrible.
I mean, the next thing you know, they're going to be taking tourists up there.
Yeah.
They're going to be populating. Every jackass is
I
going
want to go to the moon.
Hey, Martha, let's go to the moon. We're going to go take a space ride, eh? Bring the kids.
Uh-huh.
So
polluting. They'll probably throw straws out up there.
Banana peels.
That's right.
At this point in time, you can either go to Disney or outer space.
There you go.
So, about the same.
Your choice.
Yeah.
It's within 150 miles of it.
That's right. Well, you can, when you think about it, you can actually see the launch from Disney.
Mm-hmm. Drop us off at Disney.
Yeah, right. We're going to go there first. We're going down the road. Let's go this way. Okay, yeah, that's it. So anyway, that is this afternoon's festivities.
I'll have another little science update later on too. Once we get to the end here.
Okay.
I got a cool video.
The other thing that I'm going to bring up, a local item.
Okay.
In yesterday's newspaper, there was a fellow that wrote in, and he was all upset. He was because he said he had an immuno disadvantaged system. Apparently he, as I, had a lung transplant. And he was upset that when he would go out, that there were people not wearing a mask.
Right.
And he said, if you care about me or if you care about other people, and it's little enough to ask. All you have to do is put the mask on, little enough to ask in order to save my life or anybody else. And I'm sitting there, go home. Why? What is amazing is the arrogance, the selfishness and arrogance of this guy, thinking that everybody out in Gainesville is supposed to wear their mask so that he is not compromised. And all it takes is for him to stay home and everything's just fine.
All right, well, that's the big argument this week. Facebook is just on fire.
Oh, is it?
With that argument.
Okay.
People are losing their minds because they'll see somebody without a mask. And of course, we know there are some people who can't wear masks.
Right.
They have their own condition. If they breathe into the mask, it's going to worsen their condition or something like that.
Well, you think about
You got to assume when you see an old lady who's not wearing a mask or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Well, the thing about it, there's two things to consider here. Is one, I would guess you're going to have to go down to the powers that be and get one of those little blue stickers. That's
right.
That's a what do you call it?
Exemption.
Well, an exemption. You know, like the ones you hang on your window in the car. For I can park here.
Right.
So you have one on your face that
What, it says what?
I'm exempt. Oh, it says I have a thing that you just hang it on your face instead of a mask.
That's right. That's right.
Actually, it could be I don't know, whatever. But we've
blue sticker on your shirt or something like that. Well, yeah. Well, I posed the hypothetical.
A little swastika.
Yeah. I posed the hypothetical to the group that was blowing up about this. I said, well, what if you're somebody like you who has had a double lung transplant and immunocompromised? Do you have the right to force everyone around you when you go out to wear a mask? And of course, the obvious answer is no.
And
if you're super vulnerable, then you got to protect yourself.
In fact, I do. What I do is, it makes perfect sense. And and a lot of times I'll even go into a store. I'm not wearing a mask. There's a lot of places you don't have to wear a mask. I went and got my hair done the other day. And yes, yeah. And I didn't wear a mask. But by the time I got out of there, other people were not wearing a mask either. But the point was that that's my choice.
Right.
And what I do is, if the movie theater opens, and we've done this before, even because I've had this particular condition for about 7 years. When we go to the movies, it's 2:00 in the afternoon on Tuesday. We go to the matinee.
Right.
There's nobody there. That's what we do. When we go out to eat at a restaurant, we go at 5:00 in the evening.
Right.
Before anybody shows up, we go a booth. I mean, I do all the kinds of things.
We get a big table with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, and this to me is the way that they should treat the COVID situation, which is to say, if you think you're super vulnerable, you stay out of the way. But there's a bunch of people out there who I guess are still convinced that everybody is so vulnerable that literally everybody is so vulnerable that one person out without a mask could be killing people left and right. And
they use that. In fact, that's what they say. Grandma. That's the old grandma thing. What's interesting is when you go through the numbers here, one of the things that people don't realize is if you go and you have the lockdown, for instance, and everybody is staying in their own house, and having maybe stuff delivered or whatever, or maybe they sneak out and go the 6 foot separation in the store or whatever it is, and then they go home, and of course, so they've leveled out the curve because nobody's getting sick because nobody is around anybody all of a sudden.
Okay.
Well, what's going to happen what do you think is going to happen when they say, look, nobody's getting sick, so we're going to release the hounds. We're going to release all you people. Now you can go out. Well, what do you think is going to happen then? Of course, it's going to spike up.
Yeah, well, people are expecting that, and that's. I mean, the issue is really just a question of perceived vulnerability at this point. If you think that everybody is going to die, or could be seriously affected, if you think it's a 10% effect rate or something like that, or then
there's a lot of the environmentalists that are hoping for that.
Right.
Too many people.
Team Thanos is out there.
Right, exactly. If we could have a 4 or 5 billion human wipe out, I'd be happy.
Well, there are a group. It's interesting because in the Michael Moore movie, which I want to talk about because it got censored, or not censored, but it got pulled from YouTube this week.
Really?
Yes. Michael Moore's movie got pulled from YouTube. Yeah, somebody made a copyright claim on a couple of seconds of a little snippet of one of the videos in there. So we'll see. And YouTube has since pulled it down. We'll see if it gets put back up. But of course, it had 11 million views or something.
I was going to say.
I mean, it's the cat's out of the bag. But so you got more, and halfway through that movie, at 46 minutes in, the creators of the movie make a critical mistake. They jump on Team Thanos, which is just what you just said, which is, hey, if we could just kill a whole bunch of people, or if there just weren't so many people using up resources, that everything would be fine. And they're totally missing the reality, which is that on average, humans add resources to the environment. It doesn't seem possible because you think we have one ball of resources here and we're all just eating away at it. But no, because technology and innovation allows us to actually create more resources out of thin air. And and we use them, and that's why we have more people today with more resources today than ever before in the history of the world. So,
you only have to go back to people who are actually still being interviewed, like Paul Ehrlich or somebody, and these are the doom and gloom. Peak oil. There was a book out in the 1960s, Peak Oil.
Yeah.
It was called, and it said, by 1975 or 1981, there will be no more oil.
right.
And how wrong can you be? And this happens again and again and again. This is all the Luddites, of course, that
Right,
did this stuff.
exactly. There's still a group out there who's anti-technology and anti-population. They're just not team human as far as I'm concerned. I
Yeah.
mean, they don't know it, or maybe they're not thinking about it clearly. But you gotta imagine that. You gotta realize that the resources come with the extra people, and so.
Well, not only that, there's always substitutions.
Well, that's part of the
You think about it,
technology.
when I was growing up, you had the batteries in the leaky old batteries that you had in your radio, your portable radio.
Mm-hmm.
They were called they're carbon batteries. I think they're made out of carbon, and they would leak. Well, now you got lithium, whatever the hell it is. They're rechargeable.
Sure, and that's due to people. Somebody's mind came up with the
Well,
difference.
and you think about it, it used to be when you would go by, you had to have a fresh battery all the time, because even if you put them on the shelf, they wouldn't last that long.
Right.
6 months maybe. Now there are batteries out here that have a guaranteed life of 5 or 6 years if you don't use them.
Right. Well, we still haven't turned the corner on the battery technology, but that's another thing that ties into my later science update. So
Okay.
we'll see.
Well, let me just. There was another thing that I was going to. So we're talking about the blast off. That's going to be good news. And okay, moving on. This is the people that are coming out, and the people that are coming out have come out. Monday, of course, was Labor Day.
Labor Day, yes. And I got some videos.
Okay.
Got a couple of short videos here to show you. This is Jenny Springs.
That's right up the road here. That's right up the road here. It's a private place.
Oh yeah. And it does not appear that they're socially distancing. This is Daytona Beach. This is when some guys decided to throw some cash out of the sunroof of their car. Now they created a big mess on.
I love it.
It's kind of funny, but
Jimmy Dick's done this before.
Yeah, right. It's after your own heart. There, these guys.
I can relate.
Yeah. Now they're purposefully blocking traffic, which caused a little issue. But hey, if you're driving through Daytona on spring break or bike week or whatever
You're
this is,
not going anywhere.
No, exactly. If you're not planning on parking on the road, then you don't know the area. So, and you hope that these things. I mean, I heard about one gunshot thing with some people got injured and one other little incident. One of my friends was or somebody I knew somebody who got in an accident, was really upset because they were treated really badly at the accident site. But that's anecdotal. And so, anyway, that is what has happened this week.
Well, in Missouri, to go on, there are several, you say, anecdotal things that happen. In Missouri, Missouri orders the Lake of the Ozarks revelers to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. Now, what happened was, in Missouri, whatever this place is, it's called Lake of the Ozarks.
Right.
It's a park. Apparently, it was like overloaded with people from out of state, everything.
No, it looked like that Jenny Springs.
Right, it looked like that one. Right. And so they suggested that if you go home and go to bed for 2 weeks in order to make sure that you're okay.
Right. Now, doesn't Missouri have like 40 cases or something really small? I think they have.
They said
maybe 40 deaths.
I don't know. What happened was
they're not a hot spot. I can tell you that.
no. Well, what they're worried is that now that it will be.
Well, of course they're worried about it. Whatever.
So they've given the Zero Ducks Given pool party. They said, as time lapse video shows dozens of boats swarming the area in just 20 minutes, and they had videos of all that that stuff. The St. Louis County Department of Public Health issued an advisory on Monday. It came after photos shows hundreds crammed into pools without masks. I mean, can you imagine you're going to go in the pool and you're going to wear a mask? Are you kidding? and so anyway, the St. Louis County executive slammed the reckless behavior of revelers.
Slammed.
The reckless behavior. If you're out there having a party, it's like you're reckless. You're having fun, reckless.
That's right.
and so dozens of boats streaming onto the lake waters. The St. Louis mayor said the antics of the partygoers was deeply disturbing.
Right, and again, this comes down to your perception of danger. If you are...
These guys are no fun. I mean, whoever this guy, the St. Louis mayor...
Well, he's got to say that. He's the mayor. There's got to be some people come out. Of course, the park owner probably came out and said, well, that wasn't what we wanted to happen. But whatever. Yes, it was.
Party, yeah.
Because you sold a bunch of hamburgers that day or whatever. And we still haven't seen the repercussions from the other side yet. Wait until we get the mental health numbers start to roll in.
Oh, yeah.
The suicides and the other stuff. Wait until that stuff happens, because that's the counter wave, and we haven't seen that yet.
There's actually, I saw one or two little articles about that.
Yeah, and start.
There's a study that said, watch for the suicides, and of course it turns out that when you think about it, the number of suicides anyway, I think, is on up there as far as death is concerned.
It's big. It's 40,000 or 30,000 or something.
It's a big number, yeah. And of course, I think about half of those are PTSD, military or something.
Oh yeah, that's a horrible issue as well.
It really is. Okay, so the interesting thing that I look at are all the revelers that were out there, and how they were trying desperately to stop them all, and the cops were out there trying to break it up. I forget. I meant to put it on this list here, but there was another one where the cops decided to go in and break it up. Of course, now we already talked about the gym closing.
Yeah, I'm sure we did. Well, I mean, I don't think since last time they put the padlock on the guy's gym, and I think they're trying to take the gym from the guys.
Yeah,
at this
a little civil forfeiture.
Yeah.
Well, what was
like
interesting was apparently the sheriff came. No, one of the law enforcement people came by and said, "Yeah, no, never mind," because they were all.
That was Texas.
Was that Texas?
Yeah, that was a different gym.
Okay.
And of course they got the applause, the thunderous cheers.
Well, of course, 30 minutes later, the other group shows up, the other law enforcement agency.
Well, that was a different state. I mean, that was New Jersey.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, New Jersey is where they're cracking heads still if you try to go to the gym. And in fact, they arrested one of the gym goers because he wouldn't identify himself.
Yeah.
and so, I mean, whew. And here's the rule, just so everybody knows. If the police are in the course of a lawful investigation, they're allowed to ask you to identify yourself, and you have to tell them. Now, if you're just talking to a cop and they just ask you, hey, what's your name? You can say Mickey Mouse. But if they say that they're in the course of an investigation, then you have to identify yourself, or it's
Really?
resisting arrest. Yeah.
How about if you just turn and walk away?
You can only do that if they're not doing an investigation. If you try to do that while they're investigating something, they can stick you. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. They can tase you, stick you. And that brings us to the other real big story this week, which was the dude who got killed in Minnesota, I think it was.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in just a second.
Okay.
Let me do one more thing on,
Okay, go ahead.
on the opening.
Sure.
Here locally in Florida, Disney World and SeaWorld are having plans to open up.
Okay.
Now, good luck. And the other one that I want to talk about is going to Las Vegas is planning on opening.
Didn't they say Mickey was going to require everybody to wear masks?
Yeah, well, can you see Mickey with a mask? I guess I don't.
Sure.
Yes, exactly. Well, no, here's the deal. It says the theme parks presented to the plans, the mayor, Jerry Demings, and the Orange County Task Force, we must balance the safety concerns during this healthcare crisis. Of course, it's still a crisis, said the mayor. Walt Disney World wants to reopen in phases, and the Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom will start to reopen on July 11th, which is a little over a month away.
It's a little past the 4th of July.
Yeah, notice, right. Followed by Hollywood Studios and Epcot on July 15th. Guests must obtain a reservation in advance in order to attend the park.
Huh.
So you have to phone up. You call ahead, yeah. And I'd like to have a reservation. Well, no, yes.
I bet you they'll put giant masks on the Mickeys and the Minnies and stuff. I bet you every character has a mask. Now this is July. Now I'm predicting that by July, this whole thing will be over anyway. And I'll bet you by July when they open up there, the masks will be optional or whatever it is, because
it'll be interesting to see. So anyway, here are the rules.
Hey, TJ. Go ahead.
Here are the rules. Required face coverings for guests and cast members.
Uh-huh.
Of course, gas members, I understand that. Physical barriers to encourage social distancing, including plexiglass at cash registers.
Right.
Enhanced cleaning throughout the park, including hand sanitizers everywhere.
Right.
Temperature checks will be required, and of course, some of the temperature checks are going to be like infrared. They'll have a thing on a post.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, you've seen those.
You're warm, yeah.
Right.
And you get pulled aside by the Pirates
Retail
of the Caribbean.
stores and restaurants will be at reduced capacity. Contactless payment systems, no cash.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and high touch areas.
Even though they've said that it can't be transmitted through touch now anymore, or
whatever.
it's harder.
High touch areas such as play areas.
Uh-huh.
This is for kids, okay? Will be closed. In addition, social distancing squad will be made up of enthusiastic cast members. That they call them cast members. I love that.
Well, that's all
will,
their members. Yeah.
I know that. Will joyfully remind guests to practice social distancing. Signs will be on display throughout the park, huh?
I can see like a band of clowns running around in a car. Hey, you're too close.
That's it. I mean,
hey, quit. Hey, I know you want to take that picture in front of that thing, but
I mean, can you
everybody
imagine
gets separated.
The princess walks up, she's got a little crown on. Hi,
Stay back. Stay back.
You can't come.
She's poison.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, wait until July because this stuff is petering out relatively fast, and when we get to
certainly the vacation days are big instigators. Those are moving along rapidly because we've got vacation days now, and of course. Remember, this is coming up on summertime, vacation time, and you can see that there's going to be some people that are going to be frustrated. When I think about it, for instance, when we were travel across country, Grandma and me and Ms. Jimmy and so forth, you'd go to a regular restaurant, and of course everybody's on vacation, and you actually had to phone ahead from the car, say, "Do you have room?" Well, now of course, no.
Well, we'll see. I have a lot of hope that this is all going to blow over here. When I show you the picture of Sweden in a minute, when we get to that,
okay.
Well,
the next place, of course, that is going to have a real problem is Las Vegas.
Okay.
Las Vegas, casinos in Las Vegas Strip across Nevada will reopen next week.
Oh, nice.
Next week with strict safety measures after being closed for more than 2 months during the shutdown. Nevada governor announced Tuesday night the state's casinos will be allowed to open on June 4th. We now allow you to open. Okay.
Right.
We welcome the visitors from across the country to come here and have a good time. No different than they did previously, but we're going to be cautious.
Right.
Except they're going to be cautious, he said, by allowing the casinos to reopen with new rules. Oh, and I love this. Maybe Bill Maher's going to have his new rules or something on his show. New rule: don't go to. I don't know. Don't go to Vegas. Social distancing and sanitizing. Sisolak said Nevada will again welcome visitors, but be prepared to close it down again. If anybody disagrees, if you don't have the distancing or something like this, then we're going to stomp in there with our.
Here's the thing. Today, this was Memorial Day weekend. Everybody went out like gangbusters. If there is not a massive spike within the next 2 weeks, then it's on. I mean, it's just people are going to be like, "Look, I went out on Memorial Day and I didn't get sick," and all those people went out on Memorial Day and they didn't get sick.
Well, you think about it. No matter how you slice it, if nobody had done anything, the mortality rate would have been maybe 1 or 2%. In other words, you had a 98% chance of not getting sick. Just out in public.
Right.
I'll take those odds.
Look, I'm with you. I mean, at some point, the odds have been reduced down to normal levels.
Well, the fact is that they want to reduce them down to 0, which is stupid.
Well, it's impossible. I mean, look, everybody knows you got the flu is out there. Okay, you might catch the flu at any time, and guess what? Your chances of dying are 0.1%. So, watch out. What are you going to do? Are you going to wear a mask? Some people do.
Well, well, I don't think that anybody in the normal flu season last year, nobody wore a mask.
Well,
I didn't see any.
But I will bet you that there will be some people who do now, and especially people who lived overseas. Like if you lived in Japan for a while, or somewhere where they already wear masks, especially when you're sick. Like if you're sick, I can totally see people wearing masks.
I understand that. And of course, if you happen to be in Beijing, in pollution city, you wear a mask because otherwise you choke to death.
I don't know that helps with that at all.
So anyway, we welcome visitors across the country. So we're going to be cautious. By allowing the casinos to reopen with new rules and social distancing and sanitizing, the governor said, again, welcome visitors, but we're prepared to close them down if there's a spike in the cases. We've taken every precaution possible.
Right. And more.
Well, good, right. Caesar's Palace, for example, is retooling to its dice games, card tables, and slot machines to allow for social distancing. Now, think about it for a second.
How do you play craps?
Well, wait a minute. Oh no, this is what they're doing. Dice will be disinfected between shooters.
Oh God.
No, wait a minute. Chips cleaned periodically, and card decks changed frequently. Guests will get free masks in large resorts, but won't be forced to use them. So you walk in there, here's your mask. For blackjack dealers, bellhops, reservation clerks, and security guards, housekeepers, the masks are mandatory. Other rules: 4 players only at roulette.
Okay.
Normally there's like 10 people.
Right.
Okay, wait a minute. 6 at craps. Look, go see a James Bond movie.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
There's 100 people at the crap,
Right.
and they're all over each other.
Right.
Can you imagine 6 people at the craps?
It'll be so fun.
No, it won't. Plastic partitions will separate dealers from players and players from each other at the Bellagio, 3 at each table. I mean, you're talking about blackjack, okay?
Right.
Normally, blackjack has the 6 or 7 places. Poker's the same way.
Right.
And so now, and of course, the one thing is you always get to banter with the dealer.
Oh no.
Or your neighbor. Of course, what I used to do. Right, like Charlie Brown, like the adults in Charlie Brown. What I used to do when I went to Vegas, 30 years ago, I would invite some girls to join me at the crap table, at the blackjack
wholesome
table.
Girls.
Wholesome girls, nice, pretty girls, and have one over here and one over here, and I would teach them how to play blackjack. Let me see your cards.
Right.
And no, you need to take a hit on that one. No, don't hit that one.
That's
well,
it.
you can't imagine.
The advantage gives you
The advantage is unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, if you're sitting there at this table and you can see, a total of 6 cards out of, and as opposed to 2,
right,
your odds dramatically increase, and you can even be sort of inebriated and figure. I mean, because you would get to a point where if you do any just even a moderate amount of counting, you could sit there and you'd have somebody that maybe had, a 13 or something, or 12, and you say, don't hit that. Other times you would say, hit the hell out of it, depending on what it is. Or you double down, or even the long shots. You say double down, split, whatever it is, and of course if now I would have to pony up some chips,
right,
to help them out. Cause these are people that are saving for college,
right? Of course.
So this is what's there. So, but that was one of the great things. It was a lot of fun, but that's gone now.
Well, we'll see. Like I said, give it 2 weeks, man. 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from Monday, actually.
Yeah, 2 weeks from Monday. So anyway, I just think that when you look at the rules in Las Vegas, I mean, you talk about beating the fun out of something. I mean, 3 people at a blackjack table, no hookers allowed. I mean, that was another thing. The guy said that in the places that are going to be closed out there are, in addition to distancing squad. Where was it here? Casinos and so forth and so on. Dice will be disinfected, card decks and so forth, and let's see what else.
They got to wash those chips regularly anyway, I would think.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're going to keep them in a disinfected bowl or something. You have to dry them. What was it? They also said, guests will have free masks and so forth. Masks are mandatory. And I just told you about the rules. And brothels, nightclubs, and strip clubs will remain closed. Really? Well, the thing about what's interesting is
Cancel my reservation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's interesting about this to me is this is Las Vegas, which is Clark County. Well, there's no brothels in Clark County.
I was just gonna say.
No, there's not. No. You have to go.
Right
You have to hire a
outside.
car and run out of. You have to go 25 or 30 miles to Pohunk or whatever it's called, Paduk or what. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 places in
Border towns.
Well, there's 3 or 4. The only 2 counties in Nevada that do not allow prostitution, and that's where Reno is, and where Las Vegas.
You know a lot about this.
I went out there a lot, and I had to investigate. I had to know where to stay away from.
Right. That's true.
So, wow, of course. All right, well, that's going to be interesting. Let's see, what else? Must rock it. Okay, that's good. Change frequently and so forth. All right. Is there anything in particular you want to tell?
I got so many little things.
Okay.
A whole bunch of little things.
Well, let me go through my list
Go
for
ahead.
a little bit, because we're only about half an hour into this. Jimmy Fallon had to apologize
Oh my God.
for something he did 20 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Now, let me tell you what was funny about this, what was interesting. He was in it was on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
It was a Saturday Night Live skit.
Right.
Everybody knew he was going to do this.
That's right.
Nobody had a problem with it.
Right.
And what he was doing was he was mocking Chris Rock.
Right.
I mean, come on, you got to be kidding me.
There's no context there.
No, can you imagine? And so they're all upset about this. Chris obviously didn't give a shit, obviously.
Of course.
I mean, and nobody else. Saturday Night Live, there's 50 people that have all these 20 different skits on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And so Jimmy Fallon, who happens to be great at this kind of stuff. I mean, he's really good at imitating people.
yeah.
I mean, he's really good at it. You knew it was great. And they pilloried race. And of course, they're racist. That's right.
He obviously hates black people.
Right. Obviously hates black people.
And on a regular basis, he
Yeah.
takes actions to hold them down.
I
To me, this is a remnant of something that's disappearing, because they've been screaming about this blackface thing for decades now, and finally they got Trudeau and Hillary and some other people that are on that side that are like, well, we did it, but it was okay or whatever. I don't know what. Look, here's the bottom line: it doesn't hurt anybody. I'm sorry, it doesn't hurt. You never got hurt from blackface. You didn't. You
Well,
just
at the time, you didn't say anything.
Well-
in fact, you cheered it. The audience was applauding, screaming.
bunch of white racists is what they were.
They were all. That's right. That's right.
Look,
the audience. was all-
Blackface doesn't hurt anybody. Get over it. And so if you're don't apologize. And then the second thing is, if you're a comedian, Jesus, I mean, he's a comedian. That ought to give you just a carte
It's
blanche.
Saturday Night Live.
Exactly. I mean, if that doesn't provide you all the context that you need, then you're never going to get it.
What
you're
I
never
want to
gonna get
know
it.
is the people that are going to go back. When you think about it, the Shakespearean plays. There's a lot of black people in those plays. Several of the plays have black people in them.
Othello and whatever. Yeah, sure.
I mean, and
Played by white people.
and Jewish people and so forth. And
Well, those were the hideous, oppressive 20th century.
Right. But I mean, but there's not a high school, or almost not a. Let me put it this way: one of the things, if you're in the Glee Club or the Drama Club in one of the high schools, you do a Shakespeare play.
Right.
You get dressed up. You do your face up. You do all of that stuff.
It's a stupid thing. They've got it's so far down the road now where they've got it where they're saying, oh well, if you can't play a trans person unless you are a trans person. Well, how about acting?
Yeah, you're an actor. Well, one of the things I'm wondering what they're going to do. The other thing that he had to apologize, and of course there's a new hashtag. Get Jimmy Fallon has to quit. Reject his show. They want to. Defending blackface between Halloween costumes. It was a skit from 2000, it's almost 20 years ago, doing an impression of Chris Rock, and admitted he regrets the sketch. Now, he was 25
Well,
at the time.
that came from Lorne. Lorne Green or whatever said, or Lorne Michaels or whatever it is.
Yeah, Lorne Michaels, right.
Said, hey, Jimmy, go out and make an apology again. And this came up 5 years ago, and he came out and threw himself on the fire and whatever again. So it's just like perpetually, yeah. But look, he gets $1 million a week or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
So whatever. But it's like, I mean, I wouldn't do that. But for $1 million a week, I don't know.
You got an awful lot.
And he's got, as Jerry Seinfeld said, that's a Pope job. He can keep that job for life if he wants to.
Yeah.
Unless he really screws it up. And this would be one of the ways if he refused to.
Well, as they said here, what they did say was, This is interesting here. What was the one here? Oh, it sparked a debate in 2018 after Megyn Kelly was let go from the Today Show for defending blackface Halloween costumes.
Just for defending somebody else.
Blackface Halloween costumes.
I know, Halloween. Baba. Right. Well, it's like I used to tell people all the time, if my kid wants to dress up as Mr. T, he's not going to offend black people because he's wearing blackface. He's not going to offend the Mohawk Nation because he's wearing a mohawk. And he's not going to offend the Latinos because he's wearing hoop earrings. He's Mr. T. Get over it. Draw positive inferences.
Well, I tell
it's
you,
Halloween.
I remember one Halloween when you painted your entire body green and offended all the Hulk people.
Categorically deny having anything to do with that.
No, that's right.
I apologize to all green-shaded people.
That's right. The green race.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, I don't. And Jimmy shouldn't either. He should have given him the finger on that one. And any comedian who apologizes for a joke they make is doing us a disservice. And look, it's a joke.
It was Chris Rock.
I know that too.
I mean, the fact
this is a non-thing, man.
But I'm just saying that he groveled. You idiot.
Well, look again. He's whatever. He's under the corporate thumb there. So
I suppose he is. But
yeah. So if you took his apology sincerely. All right. Next, what else we got?
Okay. The next thing is we can talk about. Let me just make sure I have got anything here. Okay, the next thing I've got are the Minneapolis cops.
The neck thing?
Yeah, the neck thing.
Okay, right.
Now, what was interesting was, of course, the video showed up.
Right.
And when you see the video, and somebody said, well, apparently the guy didn't start their smartphone until 2 or 3 minutes had passed.
Right.
Now, another video has showed up, I looked at it this morning, when they were dragging the guy out of his car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they got that. There are 2 cops, and they physically are dragging him out of his car.
Right.
It was somebody parked in back of him that was just taking a video of this thing. Well, the next thing you know, he's on the ground, he's handcuffed, face down, and they have a picture of the cop with one knee on his back and one knee on his neck. And there's another one, the Asian cop is just standing there with his hands in his pocket. I mean, that's all on the video.
Right.
Just standing there, doing nothing. Well, the guy on the ground is, of course, sitting there saying, I can't, right out of the Lucy guy.
Right.
The guy that was selling Lucy's that choked him in New York. But so he's saying, I can't breathe.
Right.
And the next thing you know, and apparently the video went on for 4 or 5 minutes. I mean, he was on the ground for 4 or 5 minutes with the thing on his neck. I can't breathe. Well, a couple of things happened. Number, of course, he died. Right. Not of course, but he did die pretty quickly after they hauled him off and took him to the thing. There's a couple of things to remember here. Some of the notes, there were a lot, I would say 99% of the comments said kill the cops. Right. Basically, these guys, murderers. They're murderers. Right. Well, to the extent, apparently the chief of police fired him on the spot. Right. You're out of here. No administrative leave. No.
Well, I think they got administrative leave for like an hour or something.
Maybe, but they were fired pretty quick. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. No, I don't know if they get their pension or what. Now, you can bet 2 things. The cop union is probably going to appeal this. Sure. And so we'll see how that goes anyway. But the 4 of them, there were 3 guys standing around, and there was the one guy that did the neck thing. And 1 or 2 of the comments said, of course he could breathe because he was there shouting that he couldn't breathe, and how could you do that? Blah, blah, blah. Well, what they don't, I can tell you from personal experience, you can always get enough breath to scream out something. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. You're still going to choke to death. I mean, when you realize how much oxygen you have to have in order not to starve your brain, it's a breath. You can get a 1/10 of a breath, a 20th of a breath, in order to excite your vocal cords to tell somebody that you can't breathe. Yeah. And of course, what happened was, apparently, there were 2 things that were interesting on this. Apparently, the video that was taken was by a bystander. Okay. And apparently, there was more than one bystander. Okay. And they were saying, "Let the guy up. Let him up. You're killing him." Right. But nothing. And I'm kind of curious because there was another thing that happened where the bystanders swept in and said, "Get out of the way" or something. But of course, I guess you take this is not that one, but another one, and you take your life into your hands, of course, if
Yeah.
you interfere with the cops.
Yeah, so the first thing I will say is that the police need to publish guidelines as to how bystanders should behave in the event of an arrest. And that's never been done. And
Okay.
there should be a commonality, like the way you know your Fifth Amendment rights, I have the right to remain silent, you should know something like I have the right to stand 10 feet back and record you, and or whatever it is. And they should establish guidelines like that so that people know how to behave in those situations, because the crowd doesn't know except to yell at the cops and record the whole thing, which is fine. That's what you should do, at least at this point. Second, I'll say that this is obviously a horrible thing, but this is not necessarily a racist thing. And the reason is because if that guy was white, they'd have done the same thing.
Okay.
There's no, trust me on this. I have seen so many people who got their butts kicked by the police. And here's the bottom line. If they're arresting you, they're allowed to use force. They can literally hit you in the head with their club. So, people talk about, well, okay, the knee on the neck was too far. Yeah, well, if they didn't want to do that, they could have tased the guy, which can have lasting effects on your neurosystem and your heart, all kinds of crazy stuff. So the amount of force that the cops are authorized to use in arrest situations is enormous, and that should be addressed up to a point. I can tell you that they're never going to change it in the instance where the person is actually doing something violent. That is to say, if the guy was out there with a knife stabbing people, then you want the cops to be able to tase the guy. You want the cops to be able to take him down. And at some point, they got to hold him down, and it's going to be painful. And you don't want to be in that situation if you're the citizen, but at the same time, the cops have to be able to use a certain amount of force. Second, another thing that I want to point out is everybody knows, if you've ever had a little brother, or you were a little brother, or a little sister, or whatever it is, the first thing you say if you're being held down is, "I can't breathe." That's the first thing that you say. It is. This is a very, come on.
The first thing you do is "let me up."
No, yeah, and that doesn't work. And so what you say is, "I can't breathe," which indicates that things have escalated to a higher level. You're not horseplaying anymore, and somebody's in danger. And so that's what you say is, "I can't breathe." I've done it a million times. I've heard little kids say it. It happens all the time. Every person who gets arrested, everybody in a chokehold, like you said, the guy Eric from the Lucy's guy, "I can't breathe." Everybody says that. Now, does it mean that they can't breathe? Not necessarily. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. As the cop involved, you can't take them at their word when they're saying, "Oh, let me up, I can't breathe," because they literally could get up and stab you or whatever it is. So that, to me, the fact that the guy's yelling, "I can't breathe," to me has no impact on the way that the arrest happens. But he still obviously used way too much force on this guy if he died later as a result of the injuries sustained in the arrest. Now, there's some reports that this guy had some medical condition. And if it comes out...
Of course they're going to say that.
Well, but look, the coroner is going to report on what the cause of death is. And if the cause of death is something that, a congenital heart condition, the guy had 3 valves or something or whatever it is, then the cops are going to get off. Because that's not going to work out. If the cause of death can be determined to not have been the police, then they'll walk, and they should walk, because that's the cause of death. That's
no way. Okay, let me put it this way. I wouldn't care. The fact is, this was kind of like,
and it'll be tough to get
when you say
an impartial jury.
The COVID-19, whatever it is, when you have somebody that's got diabetes, they're overweight, they're blah blah blah, and then they mark down, "You died because of the virus." No, they died because of something else, like you say. But here's the deal: this guy, when you see the video of him being dragged out of the car.
Okay.
Now, the other thing was, you have to understand that they were arresting him for something non-violent.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to get to, is that, to me, these types of issues, they don't need to arrest people like this. They could, look, if he was forging something, then he's leaving a record of where he is, who he is, probably his address, fingerprints all over the place, video of the guy. You can pick him up later. You can send him a ticket. You can send him a notice to appear in court. You don't have to roll in there with a bunch of cops and take him down. And if you do that, the chance of somebody getting seriously injured is very high. And I'm hoping, I'm praying that the police alter their enforcement techniques for situations like this. But this is very common. I mean, I'm just telling you, this is how they held people down. If you get taken down by the cops, expect to get a knee on the neck. It is literally part of the protocol. So, right in the back. No, I know it shouldn't be.
He was handcuffed.
Oh, I'm with you. Look, I'm not
face
defending
down.
it. I'm not defending it. I'm saying it's normal. I'm saying it happens all the time. I'm saying it happens if you're white. I'm saying this is the way they take people down.
Yeah.
And that's how they're going to take people down. What they should do is they need to move the line back on who they take down. They need to have it so that you don't get taken down like this because you're driving too fast or you run through a red light or something. This has to be reserved for people who are shooting people, who are out there with a club bashing people's heads in and stuff. I mean, there are people who do violent attacks.
I know.
And those people you have to expect have to be met with a level of violence that at least equates to what it is that they're dishing out at that point.
One of the things that when you talk about this, when you see the video of them dragging him out of his car, which I thought was kind of interesting, is he was in the car.
Right.
So
just let him be.
Let him be.
Like it's his car. Like I said, take down the license plate. You'll be hearing from us. I mean, seriously.
And all you have to do is what you do is if you park the cop car in front of him, he's not going anywhere.
Exactly. I mean,
this is the easiest thing on the planet.
It's easy peasy. I mean, it's so
easy. But they, as I say, they brought him. What kind of person decides to drag that out on themselves?
The normal. I'm telling you, that is normal police procedure. And yes, it has to be
stupid police.
It's
procedure.
horrifying.
And of course, what happens is, as we know, and this is what's bad about this, is there were 3 other cops that literally stood there with their hands in their pockets and didn't do anything. Now, if you don't think that doesn't give all cops a bad name, people say all the time,
look,
well, there's a lot of good cops. Yeah, well, why did they do something?
Listen, I'll bet you if you had videos of all the arrests that happened in that area that day, I'll bet you half of them had somebody on the ground with somebody's knee in their back.
I don't believe it.
Man, you can see it all the time. How can you not? There's videos all over the place. There's another video of a guy standing next to a fence. The cop's beating him in the face to get him to go down. And then he stands on his back. And look, it happens all the time. I can't tell you how many people I've defended who show up in court the next day with bruises all over them. And the cop says he resisted. And that's it. And look, and that's the other thing I'll comment. They said, oh, and Scott said this is so stupid. Scott Adams came out and said, well, if you're resisting arrest, then I have no sympathy for you. Look, as often as the person says you can't breathe, in fact, more often, the cop says they resisted.
Yeah.
So it's bullshit. It's bullshit on the resisting thing. If that's your line there, then the cops are always going to say it. They always do say it, and then what you're saying is that they can kill anybody they want to when they're arrested.
Well, there's 2 lines that they learn when you walk into cop school. There are 2 lines that you learn within the first 10 minutes. One is, I feared for my life, and
they resisted.
And they resisted.
Right.
And of course, as you know, it doesn't matter what you do, even if you don't resist arrest, that's probably one of the charges. If you get stopped,
oh yeah, absolutely.
You get stopped and you're on the car hood or whatever it is, and you maybe you didn't put your arms in back of you quite fast enough or whatever. It's all on video. He resisted arrest.
That's right. And here's the other thing: you're not allowed to resist an illegal arrest with violence.
Right.
Okay? So if they're taking you down just for no reason at all, you still can't fight back under the law.
You're supposed to go into the court.
That's right.
Yeah.
Your rights don't show up till you get
my
to court.
brother-in-law, the judge, we're going to go see him.
Yeah, well, exactly. So the police procedures hopefully will get some reform. The biggest thing that I want is guidelines for the bystander. Actually, the biggest thing is a rollback of when they need to pull people down. You don't have to do that anymore. You can trace them back to wherever they're going. You can send a friendly car out there to explain to the guy, listen, we got you for this. You're either coming down or we'll come back and get you. And I mean, at some point they got to bag people. If they didn't have the ability to grab people at all, then you would have lawlessness. I mean, you couldn't have a society where the cops simply can't interdict.
They did.
Well,
London, 100 years ago in London, the bobbies carried only a nightstick, no guns.
But they could beat the crap out of you with that nightstick.
They were just people who were law-abiding. I think if you go back, you'll find it. Look, now they did, of course, they used to here in the States. they all called the rubber hose to get a confession. That's what the reason for the Miranda thing was that, it could be.
That's right, and those kinds of things. So there should be a bunch of pushback, but hopefully, and it's unfortunate that guy's black or whatever. But actually, that's probably the only reason why the video shows up.
Well, it was interesting. Needless to say, the usual suspects showed up. I didn't see Al Sharpton. Or
they'll be there.
Yeah, I know they will.
Because last night there was riots and they torched some police cars and turned some over.
Well, and of course, what was interesting was, and this is what happened: the police showed up in full body armor, and rubber bullets and the usual
tear gas
and rubber bullets to defend.
Sorry, dispersion gas.
Dispersion, is that what it is?
Yeah, they changed the name.
Oh my God! Of course they did. So tear gas is not enough. It's dispersion. That's good.
That's right.
But you're right. I mean, the fact is, to me, what I was looking at was this reminded me a little bit, as you well know, the Rodney King thing was the first one.
That's it.
That where the
cover of my book.
Right. That's right. And it was interesting that whenever that was, 90 or something like that.
94, 93.
Okay. But that was the first one. Nowadays, of course, if you're a cop, I don't know how you go out there and not expect to be filmed.
Well, right. And like I said, another thing that they should do is all their body cameras should turn on when they check in. They're literally, as you clock in, your body camera should activate, and it shouldn't go off until you clock out. And it should stream directly to a third-party website.
That's the thing, because I was watching. I was watching on Netflix. There was some movie about this girl rookie cop, and she had her camera on, and she caught a bunch of cops executing some people. It's real, and of course they were after her for the whole movie, and it would, of course at the end she found a friend, and it was like you say, black people against white, whatever it was. The cops were totally corrupt and so forth. But it was, it was a happy ending, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of interesting that it was all about the body camera.
Right.
And all they wanted was get the body camera off of her and then kill her or whatever.
Right.
Just
right.
Make sure you get the body cam.
Right.
And so it is always interesting when you see even the cops that have them. It malfunctioned.
Right, didn't turn it on until wrong time. Or how about with the hood up on the car? Have you seen that?
No.
So for a while they had cameras in the cars.
Okay.
That shot out the dash.
Okay.
So if the police didn't want you to see what was going on, they put their hood up, so that all you saw was the hood of the vehicle. Exactly. Now look, here's the thing. That is why cameras are going to change and revolutionize the police enforcement, and they should. Like I said, every badge should have a freaking camera right in it, streams to a third-party website.
And I tell you, in this day and age, they can be this big.
They can be that big.
I mean, it's not like you're wearing a Hasselblad.
Exactly. Your car is your Wi-Fi, whatever it is. It just goes
links
straight,
up to the satellite,
straight
the whole
through
deal,
to a watchdog group somewhere. And if you're not busting people's heads, then it'll be fine. And in fact, it'll protect you because it'll show what you actually did.
Yeah.
But that's good. They're going to have to change law enforcement a bunch. I think they're going to have to scale it back a great deal. I think they'll be able to when the self-driving cars show up. Wow, we just blew through a bunch of time, didn't we?
Well, I thought, like we were just mentioning though, that you stand back away. They want you to be able to stand away. One of the bystanders are supposed to be enough away not to threaten the cops. Well, of course, I've seen the things where the barrier between what you're seeing the cops do is like 50 yards. They push you.
Yeah, well, there's no guidelines.
I know that's what they're not.
I have personally had a baton swung at me because I was too close to a scene. And the cops decided to establish a perimeter. So they just started swinging at the crowd. And fortunately, I tripped over a rock as I was backpedaling, and so I escaped the hit just literally because I fell out of range. And that was during Halloween in Coconut Grove, and they were arresting somebody. But they need to publish the guidelines, and they need to start issuing people tickets and notices to appear instead of just bagging them right there at the scene, where everybody's emotions are high. You're on the street. There's a lot going on.
Well, in this day and age, also. You've got the cameras are good enough that, of course, unless you have your your COVID-19 mask on, but basically, if
You
you're
can tell
sitting
who everybody is.
with your camera on, you can identify them.
Exactly.
I saw some
And they have
stuff
audio and everything.
audio and everything. I saw one the other day that said, "We're looking for this girl." Because she went up on the porch and stole something and looked at the camera.
Right.
You can tell exactly who it is.
Right. And look, we saw a perfect incident of this also, which was a racist event in the park this week, which in Central Park when that girl called the cops on the guy. Well, and did you notice the way she did it? Of course, was she literally made her voice tremble as if the guy was standing over her with a knife right then. And she's like, an African American guy, he's assaulting me right now, and I'm he's threatening me right now is what she said.
Well, she got fired.
She got pilloried, fired.
As well she should have.
Of course, but that's the way it should happen.
Right.
In other words, you don't need they didn't need to scramble a bunch of cops down there, beat that girl into submission, and take her away. And in fact, the cops have come out and said we're not even going to prosecute her for that, even though it was a totally prosecutable false arrest or false report. Activity that she was doing, and in fact, I mean, you could label that a hate crime or whatever you wanted to. Because, well, I'm just saying, the worst incident possible, and yet it's all taken care of because the girl's life is destroyed, and so
she's
there
an
it is.
idiot.
You reap what you sow. So, but
Okay, we're right here at the end.
well, I got a bunch of stuff. We may have to go over a little bit here, but keep going.
Well, the only other thing I had here, I had two other things. The Iranian tankers arrived in Venezuela.
Yep.
And, well,
That's
apparently they ran our blockade.
And we did nothing.
It did nothing. There were 5 tankers with all the stuff. Apparently about two weeks worth of gas or oil or whatever it is, and nothing. It's a nothing burger. In other words, I don't understand what we're down there with the blockade if they can zing through it at night.
Yeah, that's weird. That was like a.
I mean, the tankers.
If you're going to draw a line, man, draw a line.
Yeah,
and then do something about it.
Yeah, the line in the sand. I don't think so. That's
good.
Obviously it was a line in the water, which
Apparently
went away.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, it's just it's just interesting to see the whole thing. I was looking at what it was, and of course the irony, obviously, is that they had to import these 5 tankers from Iran to the place that has the largest ever on the earth of oil reserves.
Well, if the great Satan U.S. hadn't prevented them from doing something, then whatever.
If that.
All right. All right. Another thing, very, very important this week: Trump versus Twitter.
Yes.
Trump versus Twitter.
What is with that?
Well, obviously.
Is he talking about? Well, no, never mind. You tell me.
Well, look. Here's what happened. Jack got enough press this week, Jack, the owner of Twitter, from Micah or whoever coming out and saying, oh my God, please stop Trump from tweeting these things because he's hurting people. And the widower of the staff came out and said, you're implying my wife had an affair. Trump, the president, shut him down. It's all lies, lies, lies. And Jack finally said, okay, we're going to fact check him. Well, look. Anybody who's studied the Greeks or Aristotle knows that when you start fact-checking things, you immediately get into the area of opinion.
Okay.
You can't. Don't tell me there's an objective fact out there that you know for certain about something that is. It's just there's gray area. So here it just comes down to this: is Twitter going to be a publisher where they're responsible for all the views that are published on their site? Or are they going to be a platform where they're responsible for none of the views that are on their site? And by dipping their toe into this water here, they have totally opened the door to getting regulated by Congress in a way that they had never thought of before. And I mean, Congress now could step in and say, well, now we need to review your guidelines and all this kind of stuff. And did you see who the Twitter fact checker was?
No.
This is total anti-Trump person.
It's
somebody who calls the Trump administration actual Nazis.
Okay.
And the center of the country is, worth flying over, and that's it, and stuff like that. I mean, the fact checker is obviously the most biased left person you could possibly imagine. It's like having AOC as the fact checker or something. And so So good luck with that. It's just amazing, but it's amazing to me that Trump has come out and said, "Oh yeah, well if you're going to fact check us, then we're coming after you."
Right.
And we'll see what happens. And I mean, obviously, I don't want Twitter to go down from the government. I'd rather have it go down from the market, because there's plenty of other. Now you've got Gab and Parlay, and there's a bunch of people who are springing up.
Yeah,
to try to take
that.
over.
I kind of went and looked at a couple of them.
I signed
and of
us
course,
up.
And of course, if if Joe Rogan can take his bat and ball and go over to,
I'm playing in a different field. Bye bye. And we'll see. Now he dropped out of YouTube, and I guess he's going off of everything at some point, and all over to Spotify, and that's what they get. That's what the market will eventually do. You don't need Trump to step in and squash him.
No,
but he might. And he might. I don't know how you're going to squash Twitter. It's such a.
let me tell you, if they can use the Teddy Roosevelt can squash Rockefeller, who was owned 88% of all the oil or whatever it was in the early 1900s. They took him for the antitrust business. They can squash anybody. I mean, they've got guns.
They do. That's true, and they're authorized to use them.
And they're authorized
by
to use
themselves.
That's
So
right.
yeah. So interesting. All right, got to show you this real quick. This is the image of apparently this is Sweden's COVID-19 deaths confirmed daily. As you can see, it appears they have moved past the danger zone, and we'll see, right? So any day now, we're going to see really more and more evidence of stuff like this, and who knows how accurate this is.
Well, the kickback, the pushback, of course, has come from our overlords. And they don't want to give up the power that they've got now to be able to sit there and say, you have to stay in your own home, or we'll send the cops.
Yeah, well, I will see.
We're going to close your gym. Put a padlock on it.
Yeah, well, like I said, we'll see. When you get numbers like that out there, it'll be interesting. It's going to be hard for them to fight. Did you know that the CDC owns patents?
No.
The CDC has patents on some drugs.
Really?
Yeah, and they fund themselves with those patents.
Well, it's sort of okay.
No, it's not. It's
No?
no, because if you think about it, they're the people in charge in the government. Like, they can shut other people down. They can shut their competition down.
Okay.
And
okay.
and they have this, and of course the patent itself is a monopoly. So they're granted a monopoly by the government on these drugs and
Well,
such.
the University of Florida has patents on all.
Well, that's right. And as a public entity, they shouldn't be allowed to hold patents.
Ah, interesting.
My
Well, of course, they always do is they set up a little off.
Yeah, exactly.
Entity.
And in fact,
I mean,
even as a
Gatorade.
private company, you shouldn't be allowed to hold patents, especially
Yeah.
on drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, you want that stuff distributed as widely and as fast as possible, and so it should be just open season on that kind of stuff in terms of who can get involved and manufacture as fast as
You
they
want to kill people, though. FDA is, you have to go through the 5 years of testing for anything.
Well, fine. I mean, if you're going to do that, that doesn't interfere with the patents. I'm just saying, once you get a drug and once it's useful, nobody should be able to own the formula. That's ridiculous. It's a stupid concept. Intellectual property.
Okay, we'll have to do another show on that.
Yeah, maybe so. Hold on, I got another couple real quick things here. I know we're over time, but
It's okay. I've got one thing more than just that India detains a pigeon.
what?
India detains a pigeon on suspicion of spying for Pakistan. Apparently, what they do is it's a well-known thing like the homing pigeons, and they put notes under their wings and stuff,
Right.
and they fly back and forth, and they found this one pigeon, and they put it in pigeon jail. The allegation was made after a resident of someplace in India found a painted pink carrying pigeon and had a tag to its foot, flew into her home one side. So it was a spy pigeon. So they're detaining the spy pigeon
Wow.
in a cage.
Okay. Well, speaking of oppression, of course, Hong Kong, we'll have to catch up with that, but they're going back under the gun there.
Then it's interesting because I've been following two or three. I should probably put up 2 or 3 people that have spent over a decade in China, and they started off. At least one of them started off in 2006 and the other in 2008, and they motorcycled all over the place for years, and they've now had to leave China. And they said it's gone off the deep end. They said it's unfortunate that the one guy just looking at this morning, he put up a thing this morning that said, "Sorry, Hong Kong is gone."
Yeah, it is. It's true.
Gone.
Get out now while you still can, people. Another real quick Twitter thing: Joe Scarborough, and Trump were at each other's throats this week.
Yeah.
Well, it was. I thought it was funny because Scarborough comes out and says, "How can you accuse me of murder on this Twitter thing and blah blah blah?" And of course, he has accused Trump of treason over and over and over again. So it's like, what's good for the goose, man? I mean, if you're going to go out there and Trump that he's and tweet that he's doing all this horrible stuff, then you're going to get it back. I'm sorry. Suck it up, Buttercup. Florida undid its felony voter requirement. Florida passed a thing that said
we did a constitutional amendment, I believe it was.
Was that what it was?
I think it was. It was, and it was a ballot initiative.
Right.
So that felons, once you've done your time,
right,
and you're out of free, you can vote.
Right. Now the legislature came out, tried to tamp that down a bit by making them having to pay a fee to review their case or something.
Well, none of that. They had to pay. Part of paying back society was some money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
you might have paid. You might have put your jail time, but look at all the money you cost us.
Well, that happens a lot. In a whole bunch of instances, I can tell you, people are ordered to pay restitution.
Right.
But almost always they don't have any money, and so what happens is the restitution gets made a lien of record.
Well, you say that, but it's interesting because here in Florida, we have a restitution account.
Well,
that you can draw on that's publicly funded by something on the.
There's a bunch of those. Yeah. But even so,
I can tell you because I got money.
So there you go. But I can tell you this. Even so, there's a whole bunch of the restitution that get made lien of record, and this is what one of the things they wanted to undo is they wanted to say, well, look, you can't, if you're not paying your restitution, you can't come back and vote.
Right.
But the federal judge, or I think it was a federal judge, or maybe the Florida judge. Anyway, they came out and said, no. Sorry.
It would have been Florida, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I would think so too. Must have been appeals court. They said, no, you can't do that. And so honestly, that may flip Florida.
Really?
Yeah. There was 1.5 million people whose voting rights were restored.
Okay.
And the statistics indicate that they are more likely to vote Democrat than Republican.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, by a pretty wide margin. So we'll see. I
don't know why. When you think about it, that was under the Scott administration, who's a Republican, that they got that done.
Yeah. All right, and then I'll do my last thing here. I got two. So yeah, this is the last thing. Check this out. This is the new Boston Dynamics robot with wheels.
Holy shit! He's put a skateboard to shame.
Dude, I mean, look, watch it. It jumps over stuff. It does. Oh, look at this. Okay, it carries in a minute, like one wheel up, one wheel down. This thing, in a minute, it's going to go down a slope of grass with snow and ice all over it. It's also going to pick up 100. Here it goes down some steps like it was nothing.
Yeah.
And then here down this hill. Ice, snow, you can see the wheels are even skidding a little bit. It maintains perfect balance. It's gonna in a second it's gonna pick up 100 pounds and then wheel off with it. Here it goes. If this isn't the new soldier, I don't know what is.
Oh God, here we go. Ms. Jimmy's here.
No, not yet. Damn it. All right. Also, just real quick. Australia is testing a 44 terabyte internet stream, which is 1 million times faster than what we currently have.
I mean, is it from?
I think it's a Wi-Fi thing. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah. So, but it may just be a solid state thing. Actually, you know what? It's lasers and stuff, so it is solid state.
Okay.
But anyway, you may be able to download 1,000 movies in a second, versus.
And then Well, of course, the other problem is, can you watch them all in a second?
Yeah, there you go, stream high. And then as we go out here, that's all I got. Oh shoot, I should have checked in. We're gonna check. What's up, TJ? Oh, and Scott. Yeah, well, okay. Y'all didn't have any questions. So anyway, and as we go out here, I'm going to tell you about the study, the science study that just came out, which shows that when you put your hands, when you're hyperventilating, you know how you like to bend over and put your hands on your knees, and like, let's say you just you ran 50 yards or 100 yards, and you put your hands on your knees to breathe, right? And your coach would always tell you, stand up, no, don't bend over, put your hands over your head behind you remember that?
No.
Oh, God.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, so many times. Anyway, the study came out and said hands on your knees is the easiest way to breathe.
Okay.
And it helps reduce your heart rate. So it's just funny that for decades, I know it happened, every coach I ever had would not let you put your hands on your knees when you're trying to catch your breath. They'll all come over and correct you, despite the obvious physical sensation of relief that you're experiencing.
Well, there was
and
another
this was
one.
science, right?
Right. Well, yes, science. Well, I can tell you from personal experience. I'll never forget the first time I burned my hand on a sparkler.
Uh-huh.
Of course, they're magnesium, and it can be really painful. And the people, this was 70 years ago, and they said, "We'll put butter on it."
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No. It turns out, and I finally learned, what you do is you go get ice and you soak everything.
Yeah, that's right. They tell you don't put ice.
That's what you want to do, and I'll tell you, it is stunningly amazing. I have been burned on more than one occasion, where, I mean, what we would call pretty serious burn, but you dunk that in ice, and it fixes it fairly quickly. I mean, permanently fixes it.
Yeah, and it's just amazing. But it just goes to show you what the common sense science turns out to be at the end of the day.
Not so common, not so science.
That's it. Hey, thanks, Kevin, for providing us these tracks. We really appreciate it. Thanks, y'all, for joining us. TJ, Scott, we appreciate it. Shoot us a question or something, man. Maybe we'll check it out. And anyway, I'm Counselor Curtis. This has been the Jimmy Doane Show, and we'll be back on Sunday, the 1st.
Last day? No, it's the last.
No, the 31st.
31st.
All right. See you soon.